My mother-in-law called my miscarriage God's way of correcting a mistake after pouring wine on my wedding dress. When I asked her why she hated me so much, she smiled and said, "Because you stole my son." I just stared at her. That was 9 months ago. Today, she regrets everything she ever did and wishes she just stayed silent. I was always worried about other girls. Turns out I should have been worried about my MIL. It all started the day of our wedding. The officiant asked the audience if anyone had any objections to our marriage, and my mother-in-law actually stood up and said, "Yes, over here. It should be me instead." I pinched the bridge of my nose, and even the officiant rolled his eyes and completely ignored her. Ever since then, she's made it her mission to tear us apart. Fast forward 6 months later, when I was planning my husband's surprise birthday party. Before we got married, he always told me how much he hated birthdays, and he made it a thing to never let me celebrate. But now that we were living together, he couldn't stop me. So I went all out. It literally cost almost $2,000 to organize, because I refused to cut corners. I planned to have chocolate fountains, yes, plural, a catering team, servers, and very expensive champagne. I wanted to invite practically everyone he knows, so I dedicated an entire day to making some phone calls. The first one on the list was, of course, my mother-in-law. Truthfully, I wanted to get her out of the way so I wouldn't have to keep thinking about it. She picked up on the first ring. "Oh my gosh, how is my baby boy doing? Please tell me you've dropped that evil witch by now. This is actually Sheila." "Oh, right." Her voice immediately dropped, but not with guilt over being caught for what she said. It was more like disappointment. Well, I just wanted to get it over with, so I told her about my plan and how everything was already paid for. All she had to do was show up. Suddenly, she started screaming like a banshee. "Who the F do you think you are?" I stayed silent and waited for her little hullabaloo to be over. In just 5 minutes, she called me every curse word I could think of, told me I was an evil beast for corrupting her son, and that she would rather Michael, my husband, be dead than attend anything I planned. But I didn't have all day, so I simply gave her the time and date of when it would happen before hanging up. Honestly, her reaction was so predictable that I didn't even think about it again. But when my husband got home that night, he told me his mom, my MIL, had called him. I was scared she had exposed my plans, but turns out she had just made a dating profile for him without his permission, and sent him screenshots of girls she actually approved of. He told me this with a deep worry in his eyes, as if anything she did could actually affect me anymore. "I'm sorry, my love. You know that I would have gone no contact by now if she didn't have cancer," he said. I let him hold me and kiss me. "Don't worry, Michael, I know," because I really did know, and I refused to let some jealous old hag come between us. The days leading up to his surprise party were mayhem. My MIL kept spamming me with texts like, "You're going to regret this," or "Last chance to back out of the party." And my favorite, "You think you're in control, but you have no idea what's coming." She really thought she was the evil supervillain in a kid's movie or something. So I just blocked her number, because I figured she wasn't going to come anyway. Then came the big moment. Me, his coworkers, his siblings, and members of extended family, and his best friends all stood in the kitchen in the complete pitch black. In our hands were party poppers, and there was a huge cake in the center. The air was filled with excitement, and everyone was silently whispering about what his face would look like when he walked in the door. But at 4:10 p.m. when he still hadn't arrived, an awful gut feeling washed over me. You see, he was always very time-oriented. Ever since I'd known him, he would go fishing every Saturday morning and get home at exactly 4 p.m. So when 4:30 p.m. hit and he still hadn't arrived, I felt dizzy with anxiety. Well, that's when I got the call. But it wasn't from him. It was the police. I put it on speakerphone. They told me they had found Michael in a car crash on the side of the road. He was dead. A scream escaped my throat. My hands clawed at my chest as if trying to rip out the pain. His family collapsed to the floor, and his coworkers tried to carry me over to the couch. The policeman was still on speakerphone when someone grabbed the phone from me. What he said next hit me like ice to the chest. "We checked the security cameras at the scene. It looks like a Toyota Corolla intentionally knocked him into the ditch before driving away. Can you think of anyone who may have ill will towards Michael?" I screamed again, but this time it wasn't grief. It was rage. I knew who was behind this, and I planned on making my MIL pay, by any means necessary. I don't even remember much of what happened next. Michael's brother Justin took the phone and started answering questions. His sister Anna was sobbing on the floor. Everyone was in shock. I just sat there, completely numb. The party decorations around us felt like a sick joke. The cake with "Happy Birthday Michael" written in blue icing just sat there mocking us. The next few days were a blur. I barely ate or slept. People kept bringing food to the house, but I couldn't stomach anything. Justin and Anna basically moved in to help me handle everything. Funeral arrangements, paperwork, phone calls to distant relatives. I was just going through the motions. The police came by to ask more questions. I told them about my mother-in-law's threats, showed them the text messages I'd saved before blocking her. The detective, Officer Parker, wrote everything down but didn't seem convinced. "Mrs. Reynolds owns a silver Honda Civic, not a Toyota Corolla," he said. "And according to her cell phone records, she was at home during the time of the accident." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She could have borrowed a car, or hired someone. I was practically shouting at this point. Justin put his hand on my shoulder to calm me down. Officer Parker just nodded sympathetically. "We're investigating all possibilities, ma'am. We'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement." After the police left, I collapsed on the couch. Anna brought me some tea and sat beside me. "I know what you're thinking, Sheila," she said quietly, "and I agree with you. Mom has always been unstable, especially about Michael." That was the understatement of the century. Michael was her youngest, her baby boy. She'd been weirdly possessive of him since his dad died when he was 12. I'd heard stories from Anna about how their mom would sabotage Michael's high school relationships, call his girlfriends at night to threaten them, show up unexpectedly at dates. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. The funeral was 3 days later. I wore the black dress Michael had always liked. His friends from work came, his fishing buddies, even his old college roommate flew in from Seattle. And of course, there she was, my mother-in-law, wearing a dramatic black veil like she was the grieving widow, not me. She made a show of sobbing loudly during the service. When it was time for family to speak, she pushed past me to get to the podium first. I gripped the edge of my seat so hard my knuckles turned white. "My precious baby boy," she wailed into the microphone. "Taken from me too soon. If only he had listened to his mother more. If only he had made better choices in life." She looked directly at me me when she said that last part. I felt Anna tense up beside me. Justin muttered something under his breath, but I just stared back at her, refusing to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. After the service, people gathered at our house, Michael's and mine. My mother-in-law showed up uninvited and immediately started rearranging things in the kitchen. Michael always liked the coffee maker on this counter, she said loudly. I ignored her and kept talking to Michael's boss. Later, I found her in our bedroom, going through Michael's closet. What are you doing? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She turned around, clutching one of his sweaters. These are my son's things. I'm taking them home where they belong. I stepped forward and grabbed the sweater from her hands. Get out of my house. She smiled at me then. Not a normal smile. It was cold and calculating. This house is half Michael's, and since Michael is gone, his share goes to his next of kin, his mother. My blood ran cold. I hadn't even thought about the legal implications yet. We'd bought the house together last year, both our names on the mortgage. I had no idea if what she was saying was true. You need to leave. Now. I pointed toward the door. She stepped closer to me, still smiling that awful smile. You think this is over? It's just beginning, dear. Michael should have been with someone worthy of him. Now I'm going to make sure you pay for taking him away from me. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I called a lawyer first thing Monday morning. His name was William, a friend of a friend who specialized in estate law. He agreed to meet me that afternoon. Based on what you've told me, you have nothing to worry about, William said after I explained the situation. Since you were legally married, you inherit everything unless there was a will stating otherwise. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. There's no will. We talked about making one but never got around to it. William nodded. Then the house is yours. His mother has no claim to it. I should have felt better after that meeting, but something was still nagging at me. The Toyota Corolla. The police seemed to have hit a dead end with the investigation. They had grainy footage from a traffic camera that showed a car hitting Michael's truck, but couldn't make out the license plate or the driver. I decided to do some digging on my own. I started with Michael's phone, which the police had returned to me. I scrolled through his recent calls. Most were to me, to his work, to Justin. But there was one number I didn't recognize that had called him several times the day before the accident. I wrote it down and then checked his text messages. Nothing unusual there. Just our normal daily exchanges, some group chats with his friends, updates from his fishing buddies. Then I checked his email. That's when I found it. An email from his mother sent the morning of the accident. The subject line was, urgent. Meet me today. I opened it with shaking hands. Michael, I need to see you immediately. It's about Sheila. I've discovered something you need to know before it's too late. Meet me at the old bridge at 3:30. Come alone. Don't tell her. My heart was pounding. The accident had happened near the old bridge, just after 3:30. He had been on his way home from meeting her. This was proof, wasn't it? I forwarded the email to myself, and then called Officer Parker. He said he'd look into it, but reminded me that an email asking to meet wasn't proof of murder. I hung up, frustrated. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about that Toyota Corolla. Something about it seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. Then it hit me. About a month ago, Michael had mentioned that his mom's neighbor Cynthia had gotten a new car, a Toyota Corolla. The next morning, I drove to my mother-in-law's neighborhood. I parked down the street and waited. Around noon, a woman came out of the house next door to my mother-in-law's. She got into a silver Toyota Corolla and drove away. I quickly snapped a picture of the car and the license plate. I sent the photo to Officer Parker with a message explaining my theory. He called me back almost immediately. We'll look into this, Mrs. Walsh, but please don't do any more investigating on your own. It could be dangerous. I promised I wouldn't, but I was already formulating a plan. I needed to talk to Cynthia. I needed to know if my mother-in-law had borrowed her car that day. I needed proof. I waited until the next day to make my move. I figured Cynthia would be at work, so I drove back to my MIL's neighborhood around 10 a.m. The silver Toyota Corolla was still in Cynthia's driveway. I parked my car a few houses down and walked up to her front door, heart pounding in my chest. The morning air was crisp, and dew still clung to the perfectly manicured lawns that lined the suburban street. My hands were clammy as I approached her door, the weight of what I was about to do pressing down on my shoulders. I rang the doorbell, not really expecting anyone to answer, but to my surprise, the door swung open. A woman in her mid-50s with short blonde hair stood there in a bathrobe. She had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners, but they were wary as she assessed me. "Can I help you?" she asked, looking me up and down. I hadn't prepared what to say. My mind went blank for a second. The rehearsed speech I'd practiced on the drive over vanished completely. "Hi, I'm Sheila. I was Michael Reynolds' wife." Her face changed immediately. The wariness melted into sympathy. "Oh, honey, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry for your loss." Her voice softened, and she reached out as if to touch my arm but stopped herself. I thanked her, and then just stood there awkwardly, shifting my weight from one foot to the other. She invited me in for coffee, and I accepted. Her house was neat and tidy, with family photos covering one wall. The living room smelled of cinnamon and vanilla, and soft classical music played from somewhere in the background. We sat at her kitchen table, and she poured me a cup from a French press. The mug was warm in my hands, providing a small comfort. "I don't mean to be rude," she said, stirring sugar into her own coffee, "but why are you here?" I took a deep breath, staring into the dark liquid in my cup. "It's about your car, your Toyota Corolla." Cynthia's eyebrows shot up. "What about it?" Her fingers tightened around her mug. "The police think a Toyota Corolla was involved in Michael's accident. They have footage of it running him off the road." My voice remained steady, though my insides were churning. She put her coffee cup down slowly, the ceramic making a soft clink against the wooden table. "And you think, what? That I had something to do with it?" Her voice had an edge to it now. I shook my head quickly. No, but I was wondering if you maybe lent your car to someone recently, like on the day of the accident." I tried to keep my tone casual, but my heart was racing. Cynthia stared at me for a long moment, her expression thoughtful. Then she nodded slowly. "Yes, I did lend my car that day. To Diane, your mother-in-law." My heart skipped a hit. This was it. Actual proof. I tried not to show my excitement, keeping my expression neutral despite the adrenaline surging through me. She said her Honda was making a weird noise and she needed to run some errands. She returned it that evening. Cynthia looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with a napkin on the table. "I had no idea about what happened to your husband until the next day. I asked her if she'd tell this to the police. She hesitated but eventually agreed. I thanked her and left. my hands shaking as I called Officer Parker from my car. The steering wheel was cold under my grip as I relayed the information. He told me they'd bring Cynthia in for a statement and would question my mother-in-law again. I felt a small sense of victory. Finally, some progress. The first real lead since Michael's death. I allowed myself a moment of hope as I drove home, the sun breaking through the clouds overhead. But that feeling didn't last long. When I got home, I found my front door unlocked. I was sure I'd locked it when I left. I distinctly remembered turning the deadbolt and checking it twice, a habit I'd developed since Michael died. I cautiously pushed it open and stepped inside, the familiar creak of the hinges now sounding ominous. The house looked normal at first glance. Nothing obviously missing or disturbed. The same photos on the walls, the same throw pillows arranged on the couch. But then I noticed something on the kitchen counter, a framed photo of Michael and me on our wedding day. The glass was shattered, and my face had been scratched out with something sharp. Jagged lines crisscrossed where my smiling face had been, while Michael's remained untouched. A chill ran down my spine. I backed away, fumbling for my phone to call the police. That's when I noticed the blinking light on our answering machine. We rarely used it, preferring our cell phones, but we kept it for older relatives who still left voicemails. The red light pulsed steadily, like a warning. I pressed play with trembling fingers. "Hello, Sheila dear." My Mills voice filled the room, sickeningly sweet with an undercurrent of malice. "I hope you like my little gift. Just a reminder that I can get to you anytime I want. The police won't help you. No one will believe you over a grieving mother with cancer. Back off now, or things will get much worse." The message ended with a soft click, leaving the room in eerie silence. I played the message for Officer Parker when he arrived. He looked concerned and immediately called for forensic technicians to check for fingerprints and other evidence. This time, he took the threat seriously, especially given what Cynthia had told them about the car. "We'll step up patrols in your neighborhood," he assured me, his expression grave. "And I think it's best if you stay somewhere else for a few days while we build our case." I called Justin and Anna, and they came over immediately. Justin changed the locks while Anna helped me pack a bag. Her gentle presence was comforting as she folded my clothes and placed them carefully in my overnight bag. I decided to stay at their apartment for a while. That night, huddled on their pull-out couch, I couldn't sleep. The unfamiliar sounds of their apartment building kept startling me awake. The elevator humming, neighbors walking above, pipes clanking in the walls. I kept thinking about what my mother-in-law had said. No one would believe me over a grieving mother with cancer. Was she right? Was I fighting a losing battle? The doubt crept in like a fog, clouding my resolve. The next morning, I got a call from William, my lawyer. His voice was tense, lacking its usual confidence. "Sheila, we have a problem. Your mother-in-law has filed a petition contesting the inheritance. She's claiming Michael told her he wanted to divorce you, and that he was planning to change his will." I felt sick, a knot forming in my stomach. "That's a lie. We were happy." My voice cracked on the last word. "We had been happy. Not perfect, but genuinely happy together." "I believe you," William said, his tone softening. "But we need to prepare for a legal battle. Can you come to my office this afternoon?" I spent 3 hours with William, going over every detail of my relationship with Michael and his mother. He seemed confident we could fight her claims, but it would take time and money. Money I wasn't sure I had, especially with the medical bills from Michael's brief hospital stay before he died. The weight of it all pressed down on me as I left his office, the afternoon sun doing nothing to warm the chill I felt inside. When I got back to Justin and Anna's place, they were waiting for me with worried faces. Anna's eyes were red-rimmed, and Justin was pacing the small living room. "Mom called," Anna said, twisting her wedding ring nervously. "She's telling everyone that you were cheating on Michael and that's why he was upset the day he died." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. "That's insane. I never cheated on him." My voice rose, echoing off the walls of their apartment. Justin nodded, running a hand through his hair. We know you didn't, but she's convincing some people." Uncle Kevin called me asking if it was true. The next few days were a nightmare. My mother-in-law was on a smear campaign, calling everyone we knew with wild stories about me. Some people actually believed her. I got dirty looks at the grocery store from a woman who used to chat with me in the produce section. Someone left a nasty note on my car calling me a cheater. The word was scrawled in angry red letters, the paper stuck under my windshield wiper like a flag of accusation. Meanwhile, the police investigation seemed to be stalling. Officer Parker told me they had questioned my mother-in-law about borrowing Cynthia's car, but she claimed she only drove it to the pharmacy and back. They couldn't prove otherwise. The traffic camera footage was grainy, and while it showed a silver Corolla, the driver's face wasn't visible. I was starting to feel hopeless when I got an unexpected call from Michael's best friend, Elijah. We hadn't spoken much since the funeral, both of us too raw with grief. "Sheila, I need to talk to you. In person. It's about Michael." His voice was urgent, almost whispering. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Elijah looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. He'd lost weight since I'd last seen him, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. He ordered a black coffee but didn't drink it, just wrapped his hands around the mug. "Michael called me the day he died," he said in a low voice, leaning across the table. "He was really upset. Said his mom had told him she had proof you were planning to leave him. He didn't believe her, but she was insistent. Said she had emails or something." I was shocked, the revelation making my stomach lurch. "That's completely false," I hissed, aware of other patrons nearby. Elijah nodded, his eyes earnest. "I know, I told him that, but she convinced him to meet her so she could show him this evidence. He was going to confront her about lying." This matched the email I'd found. My mother-in-law had lured Michael to that meeting with lies about me. The pieces were starting to fit together, forming a picture more horrifying than I'd imagined. "There's more," Elijah continued, his voice dropping even lower. "Michael had been recording his conversations with his mom for months. He was building a case to get a restraining order against her. He told me he had recordings of her threatening you, saying crazy stuff. He kept the files on a USB drive." My heart raced, hope flaring for the first time in days. "Do you know where it is?" Elijah shook his head, his expression apologetic. "He kept it in his truck, in a hidden compartment under the seat. The truck that was now sitting in a police impound lot, damaged from the crash." I thanked Elijah and immediately called Officer Parker. I explained about the USB drive and begged him to check the truck. My words tumbled out in a rush, desperation making my voice shake. To my surprise, he agreed. I'll go look right now. Meet me at the station in an hour. I paced around the police station waiting room, checking my watch every 2 minutes. The institutional beige walls and uncomfortable plastic chairs did nothing to calm my nerves. Finally, Officer Parker emerged holding a small plastic evidence bag. Inside was a black USB drive. Found it exactly where you said it would be, he told me, his expression serious. We'll need to review the contents as part of our investigation. I nodded eagerly, hope surging through me. Of course. Can I listen too? He hesitated but eventually agreed. We went to a small room with a computer. The space was cramped, with just enough room for a desk and 2 chairs. Officer Parker plugged in the USB drive and opened the first audio file. Michael's voice came through the speakers, and tears immediately sprang to my eyes. It had been so long since I'd heard him speak. Mom, you need to stop this. Sheila is my wife now. She'll never love you like I do. My mother-in-law's voice was shrill, almost unrecognizable in its intensity. She's using you. I've seen how she looks at other men. That's not true, and you know it. This has to stop. Michael's voice was firm but tired, as if they'd had this conversation many times before. If you stay with her, you'll regret it. I'll make sure of it. There were dozens of recordings like this. In some, she was crying and begging. In others, she was threatening and angry. The dates spanned back months, showing just how long this had been going on. But the most damning was the last one, dated just 2 days before Michael died. Mom, I'm not meeting you tomorrow. I'm done with these games. Michael sounded resolute, his patience clearly at an end. You'll meet me if you want to keep your precious Sheila safe. Her voice had a dangerous edge I'd never heard before. Are you threatening my wife? Michael's tone had changed, anger replacing weariness. I'm saying accidents happen, Michael. Terrible accidents. Unless you leave her, you never know what might happen. The threat hung in the air, chilling me to the bone. Officer Parker stopped the recording. His face was grim, his earlier skepticism replaced with conviction. This changes things. I'm going to get a warrant for your mother-in-law's arrest. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, justice for Michael. The evidence was undeniable now. She would pay for what she had done. But my relief was short-lived. When the police went to arrest my mother-in-law, she wasn't at her house. Her neighbor Cynthia said she'd left that morning with a suitcase, saying she was going to visit her sister in Florida. The house had been hastily abandoned, drawers left open, clothes strewn about, as if she'd packed in a hurry. The police put out an APB for her, but I was terrified. She was out there somewhere, possibly planning her next move against me. The thought of her on the run, desperate and angry, made me feel exposed and vulnerable. I went back to my house that night, despite Justin and Anna's protests. I needed to be in my own space, surrounded by memories of Michael. I double-checked all the locks and windows before going to bed. Every creak and groan of the house made me jump, but eventually, exhaustion won out, and I fell into a fitful sleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of breaking glass. Someone was in the house. The crash jolted me from sleep, adrenaline instantly flooding my system. I grabbed my phone and locked myself in the bathroom, calling 911 with shaking hands. Someone's breaking into my house, I whispered to the dispatcher, crouching in the bathtub. I think it's my mother-in-law. She threatened to kill me. The dispatcher told me to stay hidden and that officers were on their way. I sat on the bathroom floor, clutching a pair of scissors I'd found in the drawer. The metal was cold in my sweaty palm, offering little comfort against the terror I felt. I could hear footsteps moving through the house, getting closer to the bathroom. The floorboards creaked in the hallway outside. Then a voice called out, "I know you're in there, Sheila. Come out and face me." Her voice was eerily calm, almost sing-song. It was her, my mother-in-law. I stayed silent, praying the police would arrive soon. My breath came in short gasps as I tried to stay quiet. "You took my son from me," she continued, her voice growing harder. "You turned him against his own mother. And now you're trying to frame me for his death?" I heard a rattling at the bathroom door. She was trying to get in. The handle jiggled violently, and I could hear her breathing on the other side. "The police are coming," I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. She laughed, a high, unhinged sound that sent shivers down my spine. "By the time they get here, it'll be too late. Just like it was too late for Michael when I ran him off that road." My blood ran cold. She was actually admitting it. I hit record on my phone, hoping to capture her confession. My fingers trembled as I pressed the button, praying it would work. "Why?" I asked loudly. "Why would you kill your own son?" "I didn't mean to call him," she shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "I just wanted to scare him, make him see what a mistake he was making with you, but he swerved too hard. It's your fault, really. If he hadn't married you, he'd still be alive." The bathroom doorknob was turning now. She must have found a way to unlock it. I backed up against the shower, scissors raised. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. The door swung open, and there she stood, my mother-in-law. Her eyes were wild, her hair disheveled. In her hand was a kitchen knife, the blade catching the dim light from the hallway. "It should have been you," she hissed, her face contorted with hatred. "You should have died, not my Michael." She lunged at me just as sirens wailed outside. I dodged to the side, and she stumbled past me, hitting her head on the edge of the bathtub. The knife clattered to the floor, spinning across the tiles. Blood began to seep from a cut on her forehead. The police burst in moments later, finding me standing over my unconscious MIL, still recording on my phone. The officer's flashlight swept the bathroom, illuminating the scene in harsh white light. The next few hours were a blur of statements and questions. My mother-in-law was taken to the hospital under police guard. My recorded confession was entered as evidence. I sat wrapped in a blanket in my living room, answering the same questions over and over as different officers took my statement. When I finally got home the next day, exhausted but relieved, I found Anna and Justin waiting for me. They'd heard what happened and came straight over. Anna pulled me into a tight hug, and Justin squeezed my shoulder, his eyes full of concern. "It's over," I told them, collapsing onto the couch. "They're charging her with Michael's murder." Anna sat beside me, taking my hand. Her fingers were warm against mine. "There's something you should know, Sheila, about Mom's cancer." I looked at her, confused. What about it? Justin stepped forward, his expression grim. She doesn't have cancer. Never did. She's been lying about it for years to manipulate Michael, to keep him close. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The cancer had been Michael's reason for maintaining contact with his mother despite her behavior. It had been the guilt trip she used whenever he tried to set boundaries. All those doctor's appointments, the treatments he'd helped pay for, all of it had been a lie. How long have you known? I asked them, a new wave of anger washing over me. We suspected for a while, Anna admitted, guilt shadowing her face. But we only confirmed it recently. We found her medical records while cleaning out her house after she ran. There's no cancer diagnosis anywhere. I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. Anger at the years of manipulation, but relief that at least Michael hadn't abandoned his mother when she was truly sick. The revelation cast everything in a new light. All those times Michael had gone to help her, all the money he'd given her for treatments, all the guilt he'd felt when he tried to distance himself. The next day, William called with news about the inheritance case. Your mother-in-law's petition has been withdrawn. With the criminal charges against her, her lawyer advised her to drop it. His voice held a note of triumph that matched my own feelings. One by one, the threats my mother-in-law had posed were disappearing. The police had solid evidence against her. The inheritance was secure. Her smear campaign had backfired once people learned she was being charged with Michael's murder. Those who had believed her lies were now calling to apologize, their messages filling my voicemail, but I still felt empty inside. None of this would bring Michael back. The victory was hollow without him here to share it. The house felt too quiet, too still, without his laughter filling the rooms. I visited his grave the following weekend, bringing his favorite flowers, yellow daisies that brightened the somber cemetery. As I sat there talking to him, telling him everything that had happened, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the oak tree overhead, almost like a response. I got her, Michael, I whispered, tracing the letters of his name on the headstone. She can't hurt anyone else now. On my way home, I got a call from Officer Parker. Mrs. Walsh, I thought you should know. Your mother-in-law is being transferred to the county jail tomorrow. Her bail was denied. His voice was professional but kind. I thanked him for letting me know. One chapter of this nightmare was ending, but I knew the road ahead would still be difficult. There would be a trial. I would have to testify, relive everything again. The thought was exhausting, but I was ready to face it. But for now, I had done what I promised. I had made my mother-in-law pay for what she did to Michael, by any means necessary. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time since Michael died. I dreamed of him fishing by the lake, smiling back at me, free from his mother's toxic grip at last. In the dream, the sun glinted off the water, and Michael's laugh echoed across the surface. I woke with tears on my cheeks but a lightness in my heart. The next morning, I woke up to several missed calls from Justin. I called him back immediately, worried something was wrong. My stomach knotted with anxiety as the phone rang. Sheila, you need to turn on the news, he said, his voice urgent. I switched on the TV to see breaking news. There had been an incident during my mother-in-law's transfer to the county jail. During processing, she had managed to grab an officer's gun during a moment of confusion. There was a struggle with several officers. The GN went off. The reporter's voice was solemn as footage of the scene played across the screen. My mother-in-law was dead. I sat in stunned silence watching the reporters outside the hospital. They were interviewing witnesses, showing footage of ambulances and police cars. The chaos on screen contrasted with the stillness I felt inside. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me was relieved it was truly over. No trial. No more fear of her somehow getting free and coming after me again. But another part felt cheated of seeing justice properly served. I wanted her to face what she had done, to admit it in court, to serve time for taking Michael from me. Justin and Anna came over later that day. We sat in my living room trying to process everything that had happened. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. Do you think she did it on purpose? Anna asked quietly. To avoid prison? Her eyes were red-rimmed, conflicted emotions playing across her face. I shrugged, staring into my cup of tea. Maybe. Or maybe she just couldn't stand the thought of everyone knowing what she did. The perfect mother image was everything to her. We spent the evening sharing memories of Michael, the good times before his mother's obsession took over everything. For the first time, we laughed together. Real, genuine laughter. We remembered his terrible jokes, his passion for obscure documentaries, the way he always burned toast no matter how closely he watched it. The memories were bittersweet, but healing. As they were leaving, Justin handed me a small box. We found this in Michael's desk at work. It's addressed to you. The box was worn at the edges, as if Michael had handled it often. Inside was a letter and a small velvet pouch. I opened the letter with trembling hands, recognizing Michael's neat handwriting immediately. My dearest Sheila, it began. If you're reading this, something has happened to me. I've been worried about my mother's behavior lately. She's becoming more unstable, more fixated on breaking us apart. I'm planning to cut contact with her completely, cancer or no cancer. But first, I need to make sure you're protected. In this pouch is a key to a safe deposit box. Inside, you'll find documents detailing everything my mother has done over the years. Threats, harassment, even financial fraud. I've been collecting evidence for months. Use it if you need to. I love you more than anything. Always, Michael. Tears streamed down my face as I emptied the pouch. A small key fell into my palm. Michael had known. He had been preparing to protect me. Even in death, he was looking out for me. I clutched the key to my chest, feeling closer to him than I had since the accident. The next day, I went to the bank and opened the safe deposit box. Just as Michael had said, it was filled with documents. Photos of damaged property with dates and times, printed emails with threats, financial records showing how his mother had stolen from his college fund years ago, and a USB drive labeled backup. I took everything to Officer Parker. I know she's gone now, but I want this on record. I want the truth about her to be known. I placed the box on his desk, the final piece of evidence against a woman who could no longer be brought to justice. He nodded, accepting the documents. This would have made made our case airtight. Your husband was very thorough. There was respect in his voice as he looked through the meticulously organized files. He was protecting me, I said softly, even though he didn't know exactly what would happen. In the weeks that followed, I slowly began to rebuild my life. I returned to work, finding comfort in the routine. I had dinner with friends, allowing myself to enjoy their company without guilt. I sorted through Michael's things, donating some and keeping others. Each item held memories, some that made me smile, others that brought tears. But the process was cathartic, a necessary step forward. Justin and Anna remained close, checking in on me regularly. Michael's coworkers invited me to their gatherings, making sure I knew I was still part of their circle. Slowly, a new normal began to take shape. One evening, as I was going through old photos for a memorial album, I found a picture I'd never seen before. It showed Michael as a teenager, standing with his arm around a pretty girl with dark hair. They were both smiling widely, their young faces carefree and happy. I turned it over. On the back, in Michael's handwriting, me and Lauren, junior prom. Mom destroyed the negatives but missed this copy. I realized then just how long his mother's obsession had been going on, how many relationships she had probably sabotaged before I came along, how Michael had been fighting her control his entire life. The photo was a window into a pattern that had started long before I met him, but he had chosen me. Despite everything, he had stood by me, and in the end, he had made sure I had what I needed to fight back. The next day, I visited his grave again. I placed the prom photo against his headstone, weighing it down with a small stone so it wouldn't blow away. I found this, I told him, the wind carrying my words away. I wish I'd known more about what you went through, but I want you to know that she can't hurt anyone anymore, and I'm going to be okay. As I walked away, I felt lighter somehow. The weight of anger and revenge had lifted. In its place was a quiet determination to live the life Michael would have wanted for me, a life free from his mother's shadow. As I walked away, I felt lighter somehow. The weight of anger and revenge had lifted. In its place was a quiet determination to live the life Michael would have wanted for me, a life free from his mother's shadow. I thought that would be the end of it. Like seriously, what more could possibly happen? My mother-in-law was dead. Michael was gone. The nightmare was over. But life has this funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. About 3 weeks after my mother-in-law's death, I got a weird call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer it, thinking it was just another spam call about my car's extended warranty or something. But something made me pick up. Hello, is this Sheila Walsh? The woman's voice on the other end was hesitant, almost nervous. Yes, who's this? I was immediately on guard. After everything that had happened, I wasn't taking any chances. My name is Piper Johnson. First period. I think we need to talk. It's about Diane Reynolds. My blood ran cold. Diane Reynolds, my mother-in-law. I hadn't heard her full name spoken in weeks. Everyone just referred to her as the mother, or the suspect now. What about her? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I was her roommate in college. We've kept in touch over the years. She sent me a package before she died, asked me to deliver it to you if anything happened to her. I nearly dropped the phone. A package? From my mother-in-law? What kind of sick game was this? I almost told this Piper person to throw whatever it was in the trash, but curiosity got the better of me. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown the next day. I told Justin about it first, just to be safe. He offered to come with me, but I decided this was something I needed to do alone. Still, I promised to keep my phone on and call him immediately if anything seemed off. The coffee shop was busy when I arrived, which made me feel better. Lots of witnesses if this turned out to be some kind of trap. I ordered a latte and found a table near the window, keeping one eye on the door. Piper was easy to spot when she walked in. She was tall and thin with gray-streaked brown hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked nothing like my MIL, which was a relief. I don't think I could have handled talking to someone who reminded me of Diane. Sheila? She asked, approaching my table cautiously. I nodded, and she sat down across from me. She placed a small package wrapped in brown paper on the table between us. It looked harmless enough, about the size of a paperback book. I'm so sorry about everything, Piper said, her hands fidgeting with her coffee cup. I had no idea what Diane was capable of. None of us did. I just nodded again. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for noticing my mother-in-law was a psychopath 20 years too late. She wasn't always like this, Piper continued, clearly uncomfortable with my silence. In college, she was just intense, possessive of her friends, but nothing like what she became. When did you last see her? I asked, not touching the package yet. About 5 years ago. After her husband died, she changed, became obsessed with Michael. I tried to suggest therapy, but she cut me off for months. Piper sighed, looking genuinely sad. When she contacted me again, I thought she was better. She talked about Michael's new girlfriend, you, and seemed accepting. I snorted. Yeah, that didn't last long. Piper had the decency to look embarrassed. I realize that now. She was good at hiding her true feelings when she wanted to. I finally pointed at the package. So what's this? I don't know. She mailed it to me about a week before what happened. Said if anything happened to her, I should give it to you. Only you. Piper pushed it closer to me. I haven't opened it. I stared at the package for a long moment. Part of me wanted to just leave it there, walk away, and never look back. But another part knew I'd never have peace if I didn't know what was inside. I picked it up. It was lighter than I expected. No ticking sounds, which was a plus. I carefully unwrapped the brown paper to find a small leather-bound journal and an envelope with my name on it. Do you mind if I gestured vaguely, asking for privacy. Of course. Piper stood up. I'll give you my number in case you have questions, but I think my part in this is done. She scribbled her number on a napkin and left it on the table. For what it's worth, I'm truly sorry for your loss. After she left, I sat there for a long time, just staring at the journal and envelope. Finally, I opened the envelope first. Inside was a single sheet of paper with my mother-in-law's handwriting. Sheila, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know what I've done is unforgivable. I never meant to call Michael. I only wanted to scare him, to make him see reason. But I did call him, and I can't live with that knowledge. This journal explains everything, not as an excuse, but as an explanation. Michael deserved better than me as a mother, and perhaps you deserved better than me as a mother-in-law. Diane. My hands were shaking by the time I finished reading. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was an admission of guilt, and somehow, that mattered. I flipped open the journal, not sure what to expect. The first entry was dated over 30 years ago, when Michael was just a baby. Thomas held Michael again today. He looks at the baby with more love than he's shown me in years. I hate how that makes me feel. I read entry after entry, each one more disturbing than the last. My mother-in-law had been jealous of anyone who got close to her son. First her husband, then Michael's friends, then his girlfriends. The journal documented decades of manipulation, sabotage, and obsession. There were detailed accounts of how she'd driven away Lauren, Michael's high school girlfriend, how she'd called Michael's college roommate pretending to be from the administration, getting the poor guy transferred to a different dorm, how she'd faked cancer for the first time when Michael was 22 and talking about moving across the country. The most recent entries were about me, how she'd tried everything to break us up before the wedding, how she'd been planning to fake a medical emergency during our honeymoon to bring Michael home early, and then, the final entries. Her rage when she found out about the birthday party, her plan to show Michael fake evidence that I was cheating, and finally, her description of running him off the road. I just wanted to scare him, to make him pull over so we could talk, but he swerved too hard. The truck rolled. I saw it happen and I just drove away. I called my baby. My Michael is gone and it's my fault. I closed the journal, feeling sick. I sat there in the coffee shop, surrounded by normal people living their normal lives, and tried to process what I'd just read. My mother-in-law had been disturbed for decades. Michael had never had a chance at a normal relationship with her. I took the journal home and showed it to Justin and Anna that night. They read it in silence, occasionally making shocked noises or wiping away tears. I had no idea it went back so far, Anna said when she finished. I knew Mom was possessive of Michael, but this is something else entirely. Justin looked shell-shocked. All those times she interfered in our lives. I thought she was just being a nosy mom. I never realized how calculated it all was. I decided to give the journal to Officer Parker the next day. It wasn't new evidence. The case was closed with my mother-in-law's death, but it felt important to have it on record, to have the full truth known. Parker thanked me and promised to add it to the case file. This kind of obsession is rare but not unheard of, he told me. Some parents develop unhealthy attachments to their children. It usually doesn't end this tragically, though. In the weeks that followed, I started going through Michael's things again. But this time, I was looking for signs. Moments where his mother's influence had shaped his life in ways I hadn't recognized before. I found a letter from a graduate school in California, offering him a full scholarship. He'd never mentioned applying there. There was an old email printout from a job recruiter in New York, for a position that would have been perfect for him. Little breadcrumbs of a life he might have lived if he'd been able to escape his mother's orbit. It made me sad to think of all the opportunities he'd missed because of her manipulation, but it also made me appreciate even more the strength it must have taken for him to marry me, to choose me, knowing how his mother would react. One day, about 2 months after getting the journal, I was cleaning out Michael's desk when I found a small velvet box tucked in the back of a drawer. Inside was a beautiful sapphire necklace, and a note. For Sheila, happy first anniversary. Our anniversary would have been in 3 weeks. He'd already bought my gift. I sat on the floor of our home office and cried for what felt like hours, the necklace clutched in my hand. When I finally pulled myself together, I put the necklace on. It felt right somehow, like keeping a promise. I looked at myself in the mirror and for the first time in months, I smiled through my tears. That weekend, I invited Justin, Anna, and a few of Michael's closest friends over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just pizza and beer. But as we sat around swapping stories about Michael, laughing at his terrible jokes and embarrassing moments, I felt something shift inside me. This was how Michael should be remembered. Not as a victim of his mother's obsession, but as the kind, funny, loving man he had been. The man who had fought his whole life to be his own person, despite everything. I've been thinking, I said as the evening was winding down. Michael always wanted to go to Yellowstone. We kept putting it off, saying we'd go someday. Justin nodded, taking a swig of his beer. He talked about it all the time when we were kids. Mom always had some reason why we couldn't go. I'm going to go, I announced. Next month. I'm going to scatter some of his ashes there. I hadn't planned to say it until the words were out of my mouth, but as soon as I did, I knew it was right. Can we come? Anna asked, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Of course, I said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. He'd like that. So that's what we did. The three of us flew to Wyoming, rented a car, and drove to Yellowstone with a small urn containing some of Michael's ashes. We hiked to a beautiful spot overlooking a valley, just as the sun was setting. I opened the urn and let the ashes scatter in the wind. Goodbye, Michael, I whispered. I love you. As we walked back to the car, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't expected. Michael was free now. Free from his mother's manipulation. Free from the constraints that had held him back in life. And in a way, so was I. When I got back home, I made a decision. I put our house on the market. There were too many memories there, both good and bad. I needed a fresh start. I found a small apartment closer to my job. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. A place without ghosts, without the shadow of my mother-in-law's influence. I kept in touch with Justin and Anna. They became the siblings I never had. We had dinner together every few weeks, and they helped me move into my new place. It's been a year now since Michael died. I still miss him every day. I still wear the sapphire necklace he never got to give me, but the raw pain has dulled to a more manageable ache. Last week, I ran into Elijah at the grocery store. We got coffee afterward and talked for hours. Not about Michael or what happened, but about normal things. Movies, books, our jobs. It felt good to have a conversation that wasn't shadowed by tragedy. He asked if I wanted to get dinner sometime. I surprised myself by saying yes. It's not a date, not really. Just two people who shared a loss finding comfort in each other's company. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not ready to think about loving someone else yet, but for the first time since Michael died, I'm open to the possibility that there might be more to my story. Michael's mother took so much from both of us. She stole his chances, his choices, and ultimately his life. She nearly destroyed mine too, but she didn't win. In the end, the truth came out. Justice was served, even if not in the way I expected, and I'm still here, still moving forward. That's what Michael would have wanted, and finally, I'm ready to want it too.